the broader decarbonisation of the mining industry, beyond your members, do you think there's, an appetite? There's quite a, I know it would vary depending on mining companies, but there's quite an appetite for the push to to net zero or decarbonising a lot of these mining operations. And how fast do you think the mining industry can really get to sort of a net zero? Or it's one of those questions, I suppose it's not easy to answer, but it's sort of curious your thoughts.
Well, I think it's one of those things. Good question, but you often put yourself in different points in time and realise how you can have an executive today and you'll sort of gauge their appetite, but if they're in a social environment or business environment in 5 years or 10 years time, or 5 or 10 years ago, they'll behave. It'll be a very different climate. So I think a lot of this comes back to the imperative for change around climate. I mean, so any objective observation, I think we're on target now. We're actually have locked in 1.6, 1.7 degrees increase, which is why we're, there's heat waves in in Perth and the deluges on the East Coast. So, and the trajectory is likely to be about 2.6 degrees. The practical projection. So you're going to get some enormous pressures coming and potentially black swan events. So you can imagine a situation where this is just going to keep increasing this pressure on the executives and the mining companies. So that'll come. I think the other thing is if we're not pushing this, we'll struggle with people to come into the industry. And it's interesting. I do a lot of, we do quite a bit of business in the US with tech companies and some of our startups and things, and they look at the mining industry, interestingly, as though it's, it was 5 years ago, they were pretty down on it, a lot of these areas, because it was so connected with fossil fuels, and they would just see it as that. Now they see that all the new minerals and see mining as being part of the future. So I think mining has a great opportunity to sort of really flip this perception from being, something that was, has been seen as being on the wrong end of the social sort of ledger to, a leader, and look, frankly, I look at some of the companies involved in the consortium, putting out a 95% renewable industrial complex that's run with, solar, wind, large gravity energy storage and electric trucks and, lots of, technical capability and visualization and remote operations. They'll be very attractive, advanced, clean industrial complexes, which, whereas, which are quite leading. So we have that chance to actually really flip the whole image of resources, particularly in the base and precious metals areas. So, don't underestimate the ramping up of pressure. Big opportunity to sort of recreate mining, and look, skills as well. Pulling people into the industry, we've got a real issue with that. So that's important. Willingness, well, people respond to, the system sits where it sits unless there's something to move it, and that's generally external pressure. That's not just the mining industry. Humans, every industry, so.